10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Women in Sports. This is a Rising Coaches sponsored production. For more information on Rising Coaches, visit their website at risingcoaches.com. Also, be sure to check out the latest Women in Sports podcast. It's available on all podcast streaming platforms. New ones come out every week. And now to get to our guest and why everyone is tuning in, a former two-sport athlete at Niagara University, and she is now the Associate AD of Compliance at the University at Buffalo, Kelly Cruttenden. Thank you for joining us tonight. How are you?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me tonight.
Of course. So we're just going to get right into it. Something I always love to just learn about people and their backgrounds and why they love sports and work in the industry. I kind of alluded to it earlier. You were a two-sport athlete in college, Division I level. That's super impressive. So what role did sports really play in your life growing up?
Well, my family's big sports people. My father, started me early, taught me how to play, baseball, basketball, football, you name it. So, I had a great opportunity at Niagara University back in the mid 90s. It was pretty common then for a lot of my teammates to play both sports. So I had a great experience there. And my coach was actually the compliance person at Niagara at the time. So kind of had a feel for what she was doing. She pushed me kind of into that field and opened some doors for me. And I got an internship at the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. That was the summer of 98. Moved out to Edison, New Jersey, started working for the conference office, loved it, really loved what I was doing, decided to come back to Buffalo. Canisius has a good sport management program, a master's program. Joined that program, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, seriously, never left. It's always a thing. Like once you're in Western New York, you don't leave.
Right.
I love it. Here. Yes, yeah. Yeah. So just kind of like take us through. How are you able to really like become successful at both like volleyball and softball, and then like, was the recruiting process like you were going to be a volleyball player, you were going to be a softball player, or were you really recruited like I wanted to go to Niagara because I could play both?
I was more so recruited to play volleyball. The volleyball coach there saw me on somebody else's film and, called that player and said, hey, we saw her on your film too. They came and watched me play. That I decided I was going to go there. I went there on an academic scholarship, so I didn't, I didn't even have an athletic scholarship at Niagara. Fully funded me academically, so I didn't really feel the need to commit to one sport at that point in time because I wasn't on athletic scholarship. So talked to the softball coach and decided to join the softball team too. I knew I could play at that level, so ended up working out really well. We actually won a MAC championship my senior year at softball. Ended up playing Arizona at Arizona. Back in May of 1998. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. Honestly, just like not even the level to compete at is like out of this world in both sports, but also just to like balance going to school and having, a major and wanting a future, in whatever that major was. How did that kind of work out with like your academics? And obviously if you were on a scholarship, you had to keep a certain GPA. What was your schedule like?
Pretty crazy. And I worked. That's just kind of how it was then. It was a different time. Playing two sports, I would often practice twice a day. I would, go to softball practice in the morning, volleyball practice at night, vice versa. Didn't matter. I'm pretty nerdy, so I really liked going to class and I liked taking notes. I loved writing papers. I loved hanging out in the library. I was kind of a nerd like that. So that kind of, maybe that's kind of what directed me into compliance. People think of it as, kind of a nerdy position, but you have to be really organized, really structured. Attention to detail, all of those things, which I think kind of suited me well when I decided to make that career choice.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, like you said, your coach being like in compliance and stuff like that, because I feel like sports like definitely have evolved where like coaches coach now, but now it's kind of, it's looping back because of COVID. Like coaches are having to be the SIDs. They're having to do all these things because they're limiting staffs. But that's super cool that you were able to have a coach that kind of got involved. Like that was my Division II experience where kind of similar to you, like I got to see the back like inner workings of the department because my head coach is like also an AD and stuff like that. So just across the street from Buffalo. But yeah, so then just kind of take me through like at what point during like college were you kind of like, hey, I think I want to go into sports and really pursued that path?
Sure. I knew I didn't want to coach. I always knew that through college. I'm like, I tormented my coaches too much. I knew I didn't want to have to deal with that. But I knew I wanted to stay in college athletics. I loved the atmosphere. I loved being at Niagara. I loved being at Purple Eagle. It was great. So when my coach started talking to me about the internships, because that conference office has really good structured internship programs and they're paid internships. And when I saw that and saw that there was a compliance one, I knew that was going to be a good fit. Went down to Edison, New Jersey, spent a year down there with, Barb Church and Rich Enzer and all the staff at that conference office. And they really just kind of threw me to the wolves and put me to work doing all different kinds of things, not just compliance. And I got a really good, well-rounded experience there. And it was so valuable. Just, being out of college and being out on your own and having kind of a real job and working. I knew that I wanted to work in college athletics, but at that point, I also knew I wanted to get back on a campus, that I didn't want to deal just with the conference office. I wanted to be on campus working with the students. So I came back to Buffalo to get my master's at Canisius, and Bill Maher, who's the AD at Canisius now, was then at UB, was in need of a compliance person and, got my number and gave me a call. And that was, December of 99. And I started February 1st, 2000. So I'm just about to hit my 21st anniversary at UB.
Yeah, that's insane. I definitely am going to hit on it later of just like, you've scaled the ranks for sure. Just like the definition of like entry level and being able to see growth is super cool. To kind of like speak to like your graduate program like at Canisius, obviously like not obviously, but I went to school in Western New York, and I remember like a lot of people said like go to Canisius, do their sports admin program. Like I feel like sports are just so rich in Buffalo, in Western New York. But what kind of like made you want to pursue like your graduate degree and stuff like that? Was it kind of just like, this is what you have to do? Was it something like, hey, I just want to like be the best candidate to step into the real world, or how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I thought, I really want to work in college athletics. I want to get back in the Buffalo area. I really enjoyed my time there. So it just seemed like a good fit at the time to go back, get my master's in sport administration. It was one of the few programs, in the area. I'm from Rochester originally, so I wasn't too far from home. Great program. Really enjoyed the instructors there. A good depth of course offerings. I felt like I got my hands in a little bit of everything in that program. Met a lot of really good people that I'm still friends with today, people that are coaches, administrators, compliance, ADs, all different people. Some people wanted to be agents. We had people from all over the world in that program. That program is a lot of it's online now. When we were there, it was all in-person classes. I didn't have any online classes at that point in time. So this was like 99, 2000 school year. But I really enjoyed it. And I started working at UB while I was finishing up that program. So got a great experience there. It was definitely worth the time and effort to put into that. I knew I wanted a master's degree. I knew that was going to be a stepping stone to get my feet into the door.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I think too, like just with the like master's programs now, it's like people, they really like, you go to college, you graduate, you either are GA or you do the master's programs and things like that. What like great advice or classes kind of really stick with you still that you did in your graduate program?
Some of like the org behavior classes, I really enjoyed just kind of the structure. I hadn't really had any of those kind of classes at Niagara. I was a comm major with a poli-sci minor. I'm thinking I was maybe going to go to law school. Yeah. And a lot of compliance people do. A lot of compliance people across the country, Division I, Division II, have law degrees. So that's pretty common. I liked all my classes at Canisius. I liked the facilities classes and learning about all those different things. I think it made me, appreciate more all the different aspects of college athletics. And while I was working at UB at the same time, I could kind of apply those things while I was just starting out in the business. So I think it's important to find, a good graduate program, especially if you want to be in this kind of field, whether academics, compliance, people are really going to look for that master's degree. So it's important to get one that's going to give you a good depth of experience.
Yeah. And did you feel empowered to really, like, obviously they want their students to get jobs and things like that, but sometimes like in our heads, we think it's like, oh, we have to finish and then start looking for jobs, and then that graduate degree is super, you're like getting a secondary education that, you don't really like foresee past. What was that kind of like? Did you still have like compliance on your mind, or was that something that, was that something that like, did you ever think about pursuing anything else?
No, I didn't. I started working at UB kind of like halfway through my master's program. So I was, going to UB in the morning, taking classes at night, and working all the time, working, 3 or 4 other side jobs just to, pay my rent and make a car payment and do those kinds of things. So I was working really, really hard. But I had a great mentor at UB, Bill Maher, who I said is the AD at Canisius, was just wonderful and taught me how to be, a good employee and a good person and a good compliance person, how to treat coaches, how to treat student athletes. He was really a good mentor. I've had many over the years, but Bill really gave me that first opportunity, and I'm forever grateful for that. And I still see him. We're in contact very frequently. He actually just stopped by the other day, so it's good to know that over all these years we still have that good relationship. And he's really the person that I can say, got me started in my career.
Yeah, I'm definitely starting to miss Buffalo right now, and just all the people that helped me, still help me. Obviously got us in touch. We've definitely been at the same games and on the same sidelines. But that is really how the community is, and especially like in sports, like lifting each other up and so many different connections. I love it. So you got your job at UB and obviously didn't go anywhere else. What kind of was that like first real job? You were finishing your program and doing a bunch of other stuff, but how did you really like approach stepping into like your first, real job in compliance?
Right. I mean, it was hard. It's, it's always challenging. You're dealing with coaches that have been there for a long time. You're dealing with people that are, 30, 40 years older than you, that have been in the business for years and years and years. And here you are, fresh out of college, grad school, you're young. I just kind of followed Bill's lead, made sure that I studied the material, that I knew, that I asked lots of questions. I think it's also really important when you're young in your career, and I certainly did this, was I volunteered for everything at UB. Every event, everything that you could do, I was there. I was, ushering when we were hosting boxing matches and working events and doing all of those things whenever there was a need. We're hosting the swim championships. I'm, timing down at the pool deck, and I'm doing all those things. And I made myself valuable to UB. I think that's really important, is that you're not just going to walk in like when you're that young and that new. You have to show everybody that you're going to be a valuable part of that program, that you care, that you're going to dedicate the time. So I really made sure that I did that young in my career, and I think it paid off. You don't see a lot of compliance people that have stayed at one school for this long. It's not typical. I've got colleagues all over the country. Most of them have been at 3, 4, or 5 different schools. There's a few of us that have been at one school for a long time. My buddy Brian over at Toledo has been there forever. And we always give him a hard time, but I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to stay in one place and having that commitment and loyalty to one school. I bled purple when I was in college, but I bleed blue, and I enjoy being at UB and the people and the camaraderie and the family atmosphere. So it's a good place to be.
For sure. And the winning too. Now, I mean, even just recently, I felt like I was like selfishly only there for 2 years, but got to see, a successful football team, successful basketball, men and women, just programs really, really flourish there in that city. And now the Bills being in the playoffs, I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. It's been nice to see us grow and win, and every athletic director I've had has kind of laid that path. Bill got us started, and then Ward Manuel came in and really just kind of turned things around a lot. He leaves. Danny White comes in, who just took the job at Tennessee today. Congratulations to him. Does amazing things. Alan Green comes on board, does more amazing things. He moves on to Auburn. Mark Allnutt's here, and he's just keeping that trajectory going. We're just going to keep winning. We're going to keep fundraising. We're going to keep building better facilities and offering better services to our student athletes. We got that wonderful field house that we just built. Amazing. Every year we just keep adding these little pieces, and I think in the group of 5, we're really, a name, and we're becoming that powerhouse that we always knew we could be.
Yeah, thankfully I got to not really sneak. Grant Murray took me into the field house before it left. I had like one last recruiting trip that I got to help a host family, and I was like, this place is beautiful. It's crazy. It was just like a hole for a really long time. So watching it become, actually working and the athletes be able to see that and use it has been super incredible. But you kind of talked about that kind of turnover, and that is really not only is it common in athletics in general to really not bounce around, but to be able to kind of have different jobs and travel all over the country and do things like that. How have you been able to, as especially like compliance being such an important aspect of an athletic department, how have you really like helped or been challenged by the new leadership that comes in and really been able to be on board and stick around for each of those leaderships?
Yeah. They all had really, really different styles, between Ward and Danny, Alan and Mark, all very, very different people, all great human beings. It's easier when you have a great boss to work for and somebody that you trust and respect. They all had different styles and wanted different things from our office. Some ADs are very hands-off. Some ADs want to be involved. Some ADs want to know about the legislation, and some of them are like, hey, I'm a fundraiser and I want you to deal with this. But the most important thing is to know that they have your back, and that if there's ever an issue that you can go to them. If you ever feel like there's going to be a problem or any of those things, and I've always had that communication line with my ADs. Really important. If I picked up the phone right now and called Mark would answer the phone because he knows it would be important. And that's critical for our success. My job is to keep us off ESPN with those negative articles and make sure that, we're doing things the right way. And it's easier to do when you have a boss that supports you, trusts you, empowers you, lets you do your job, but is there, when there's issues as support.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really great answer. Kind of going back to when you were interviewing and doing stuff like that, was that really like, was UB something where you saw yourself kind of being at for this long, or was it just something that like you are super great at your job, obviously, and just kind of really got to grow in the ranks? How did that really come about?
I'm not sure when I interviewed that I had thought that far ahead. I was so young. I think you're living day to day at that point in time. I knew it was a good position. I knew I could do it well, and I was excited to do it, but I don't think I thought that far ahead. But I think it's, you gotta go with your heart. And, I've had many, many opportunities, to take other jobs and to go to other institutions. It's not been that. I feel like, I love the city. I love being in Buffalo. It's a wonderful place to live. If you've never been here, when it's safe, come check us out, because we've got a lot to offer. The cost of living here is amazing. It's very, very affordable. People can buy houses and live and raise their families. It's safe. We have the Great Lakes. We have the Niagara River. We have Niagara Falls. We have all these things right at our fingertips. And I knew that we were going to be building something special. And when Ward got here in 2005, and we started to see a little bit of success, and then we started winning the MAC championships and going to the NCAA tournament, doing all those things that, I think it was important for me. I put down my roots here. My family's close, and I love the University of Buffalo, and I wanted to stay. So I keep my focus on that.
Yeah. So then when those positions kind of really opened up to, grow and become like kind of where you are today, how did you go about that in the department? Or was it just kind of like, yep, Kelly, like moving up? How does that kind of really, I feel like that's so behind the scenes. Not a lot of people.
Yeah. There's always been, as you move along, I was part-time. I was a recruiting coordinator. I was kind of doing administrative stuff. And, the more you learn and the more knowledge, I think I just kind of moved along as the athletic directors came and saw my value to the department. I kind of moved up in the ranks. I've had a lot of wonderful people that worked for me. I have just an amazing staff right now. My assistant AD that works for us, Eric Sealis, my financial aid person, Christina Evenson, wonderful, amazing workers. They make me look good every single day because they're such hard workers and they're so knowledgeable in their jobs. But I've had many people before them that have come through, Brandy Garno and people like that have been amazing. They teach me more than I'm teaching them. So we work together as a nice cohesive unit. So I think it's just the natural progression to move, to compliance director, assistant AD, associate AD, as that role becomes more valuable and more important especially when you're winning more. You're just that much more in the spotlight.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point now that I think about it, especially like just from the compliance aspect, from the recruiting part of having all of those, just the paperwork, the visits, you have to sign off on all of these things. Obviously, like I got a behind the scenes look being able to work for the recruiting, the director of recruiting for the football team, and just so many things that we had to make sure we were doing. And obviously you were on a different end of everything and we were just passing by and never saw each other, but yeah, which is so funny. But to kind of now talk about like your job that you do right now, which is so important, compliance, like bow down. I feel like every coach greatly respect or should greatly respect compliance. I feel like you're in such a like valuable place, having to unfortunately sometimes deliver bad news. And sometimes, like I've been on a team where, it was like, this is unfortunate, but this happened. And now we have to, pay the consequences of it. But yeah. And like so many rules, you're a direct kind of voicing box and understanding of the NCAA and all of those things. How do you operate daily? Kind of a broad question, but yeah. And you said a great team, but like you yourself, yeah. What do you do? What do you do?
We're busy. Typical, non-COVID life. It's, a lot of recruiting, a lot of monitoring of recruiting, approving recruiting, working with coaches on recruits to get them in. I'm looking at transcripts. We're doing evaluations of them. I'm the admissions liaison. I'm the housing liaison. I'm working with financial aid, student accounts, all those different offices on campus. So in a normal life, I'm all over the building. I'm at practice, spot checking, making sure that, those who are supposed to be coaching are doing the coaching and those who are not, checking to see who's there. We're all over the building. I'm at every home competition for almost every sport. I would say I probably make 95 to 97% of our home events. I haven't missed a home football game until this year because I was isolating, but I hadn't missed a home football game in probably 10 years. So I'm at everything. We're at everything. And I think it's really important that you have your face out there, that the kids see you, the coaches see you, they respect you, they listen to you more. They're so much more apt to stop by, ask questions when you're there all the time. So that's kind of a typical day. I'm in a lot of meetings. We're dealing with a lot of different things on campus. I'm on our executive staff, so I'm in those decision-making meetings, for things that are at really high levels. I think that's the athletic director now, Mark, gives us really, gives us we have a lot of voice when we're in those meetings. So that's something that we're dealing with. There's issues that pop up. I'm dealing with parents, I'm dealing with fans, I'm dealing with boosters. We're dealing with all those different groups on a day-to-day basis. We're monitoring practice hours and all of that. We have a software system that we use that manages like our forms and our workflows and all that kind of roster, scholarships, all that kind of stuff. So we spend a lot of time using that software. That really helps us out. But on a typical day, we are busy. We have some downtimes. I would say like once school starts and everybody's on a team and on a roster and eligible and has their scholarships and everything's posted, we kind of like, take a big step. So usually like around that first week of October, I'm going to soccer and volleyball and football, but it's like the wave has died down, and then grades post in December, and then it's busy again. And then we have a little bit of a break. We take a little breath, and then all the new kids are coming in for the spring, and then we do it all over again. So it's very cyclical. In COVID, it's been a lot of Zooms. It's a lot of Zooms. I probably have 20 Zooms this week, one after the other, just making sure everything's in place. for when the students start. We don't start until February 1st, so we got a little bit of time, but our whole goal is that everything on the first day of school is ready to go, and it's very seamless. The kids don't notice anything. Nothing misses a beat. So we spend a lot of time educating. We do a lot of rules education with different groups on campus, our students. We meet with our parents. We do all kinds of education to make sure that people are aware of, how the rules might apply to them, and so that they know to come see us.
Wow. Just wow. That's literally so much. Yes, there's so much. And like, I really, as a former athlete, obviously you yourself, but kind of like, I just am now adulting, but like, I just remember like learning all of that and being like so thankful for everyone that like let me wear a jersey to walk out on the floor, because there's just so much that goes into it for sure, especially like at a school, like you're working with like 16 teams, all their coaches.
Yeah.
You have conference rules, you have NCAA rules, you have school rules, which was something that like I didn't even think about all of that overlapping, which is crazy. But how did you kind of like handle your first kind of roadblock or issue you had to deal with, or something that you were like, wait, like this isn't how it's supposed to be? What was that really like for the compliance part?
I can think of many, many times that I botched something, screwed something up, gave somebody the wrong answer, missed something, didn't see something. That's common. Every time we have something that we screw up real bad or something that's broken, we get together as a group and we say, how do we avoid this from ever happening again? I can think of, ones from just last year and the year before where something didn't go right. And I sit down with my staff, I sit down with Eric and Christina, and I go, what are we going to do to make sure this never happens again? We're never going to allow this to happen again. And then we structure our policies, our procedures, whatever we're doing to make sure that doesn't happen again. Sometimes we name those rules after the kid. Maybe it was one student that did something, and we'll name it after that student and say, we're never going to let this happen again. We do a lot of preventative maintenance. We do a lot of things to stop those things from happening. Like, what can I do to make sure that X, Y, and Z don't happen again in the future? What did we miss the first time? Can we put another procedure in place? Can we, we don't just want to keep writing policies. Like, that's not super effective. Like, what action items can we do? And that's a term I use a lot. Like, at the end of the meeting, okay, what are our action items? What are we going to do after this meeting? And we're making a list. I like to keep a lot of notes from all of our meetings. I like to make sure that my staff has the notes after the meetings, that they're involved in decision-making process. Like, it's not boss and employees. It's like we're a team working together, and that's the best way to operate a compliance office. Some people split compliance into bylaws. Like, you take these bylaws, I'll take these bylaws. Eric and I don't do it that way. Eric and I split by sports. So I'll handle basketball, volleyball, football, and softball. He handles track, wrestling, swimming, soccer, and tennis. And so we deal with all the bylaws for those sports all the time. So he's their point person, I'm the point person, and we answer all the questions for those sports. And I think you learn more doing that. You have more breadth of experience by dealing with all of the bylaws.
Yeah, I think that's super, like, what makes you guys too get to grow into like having those relationships with them is because you're working with those kids all the time and you're at those games, and any questions, like, they just get to go like right to you. And yeah, I love naming the rules and stuff and those action items after kids or whatever happened. That's super smart. But yeah, and something too that I just from my experience being at Buffalo and interning there was just the huge push to you guys had the Diversity and Inclusion Award from the MAC while you were there. I thankfully got to meet with Kathy Twist a few times before she retired. She's incredible.
Wonderful woman. Yep.
Yeah.
Wonderful. She actually called me the other day. Wonderful woman. Was also another great mentor to me. Really showed me how to be professional and respectful, kind. She's a great listener. So a lot of great women that I've worked with and men over the years, and kind of like take a little piece from each of them and say, Kathy did this so well. I want to move forward. I want to take that little piece from her and be that kind of person. She's amazing.
Yeah. She's so like willing to, like, she just got, like, I just emailed her, asked for a meeting, went over on campus, met with her, and I was at that point just really like exploring. It was my junior year, and I was like, I really want to go into athletics. I don't know if I want business or, you know, be in the professional realm or stay in college and stuff like that. And she honestly was the person that was like, why I want to be an athletic director in my future, because of just the way that and then she was like, okay, well, like then start making steps and how to do it and explore those things, and just the way that she thinks, and it is so helpful, and loves her job and is extremely great at it. But with her really explaining, like while we were having this meeting, the award is like sitting on the desk, and I'm like, that's so cool, because it's like you're like really good at your job that like you're getting these awards, and especially for something that obviously has been going on for so long, but like having diversity and inclusion. And I remember she was explaining the things that with Buffalo being so close to the Canada border, just having to make sure that like your international kids and all of the domestic things are all set and in place. And you being that liaison with Campus Life and international students and stuff like that, what kind of twist and kind of extra variable does that throw into compliance that maybe not other schools have to really deal with?
Yeah, we have a lot of international athletes. We recruit all over the world. Men's and women's tennis, lots of international students. Football actually has a lot of international students, and Coach Jack and the women's basketball program has had great success recruiting, both in Europe and Australia. I love working with our international students. What a great group of kids! But they do bring a whole different set of rules. The structure of amateur athletics in Europe and in some of those countries is very different than ours. So the documentation required by the NCAA for their eligibility, for their initial eligibility, is very different. We also try to be the liaison to our International Student Services Office with visa questions and travel questions and documentation, admission. There's a lot that goes into being admitted, getting your travel documentation, registering with SEVIS and the federal government to make sure that you can get the proper documentation across the border. So we try to be that first stop with them. We're working with all of our international students. Like just in January, we have 3 new international students enrolling, 2 in men's tennis and 1 in women's basketball, just making sure that they had everything in place to get here. We will work with them on that. It's part of the admissions process, so it kind of falls under our umbrella. But they do have a whole different set of challenges. And then getting them here and making sure they have U.S. bank accounts and U.S. phones and making sure that they feel comfortable and welcomed and respected here. We try to make those really personal connections. Our office is, it's busy all year round. The kids are in our office all year round. I keep a giant bowl of candy on my office. They all know it. But I do it on purpose because it keeps them coming in and talking to me. I know what the kids like. I'm letting them pick up the candy on Amazon. I'll buy it just specifically for students that want specific kinds. And, that keeps them coming in and talking to me. And it keeps me in tune with what's going on. It makes them feel more comfortable. I've got a couple kids that I feel like I'm kind of like a mother figure to them, checking in on them. I've got kids that are orphans. I've got kids that don't have parents. I've got kids that are homesick. And we like to have that role too, where they feel like they can come talk to us.
Yeah. And something that's extremely important, like not only just with like these 18-year-olds that are going to college for the first time and could just be, a state away or a few hours, but somebody coming in from a different country. I think that it's just that definitely a direct reflection of the hospitality and the hard work that you guys really, really put in the office for sure. So to talk about like COVID is a thing. I feel like the rule book was thrown out the window. It does not, I feel like sports will never be the same, for good or bad, not sure yet. But I think just the incredible hard work that everyone has put in to be able to have games and to compete. And unfortunately, like fans aren't there. And especially with like you being in the state of New York, that a lot, like obviously state by state, so many other rules, but how did you really start adapting to COVID and all of that, the challenges that came with it, and doing it all from Zoom? Right. Can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's hard because I just so prefer just to be in the office. I don't want to be working from home. None of us do. We all want to be in the office. I want to be able to see the kids. There's there's when we started playing home football games, I worked the games, and I felt like it was the first time I'd seen some of the guys, and I'm like, God, I haven't seen you, and they're getting tested all the time. We're not as much, so it's just so different. The NCAA COVID question and answer document that we're constantly referencing is 70 pages long. It's 70 pages long, and it changes basically every week. There's a new piece, a new question, a new thing. Some of it's been cool. Some of the stuff that we've adapted to COVID, I'm like, maybe we should keep this, and I like the way where we're going. All of the recruiting has moved online. That's unfortunate for the kids playing in high school right now. I know they're kind of missing out, and that's really unfortunate. They're missing their campus visits and all that kind of, that recruiting process just isn't there right now. But it's been tough. It's mentally challenging for everyone. There's days where I've been at my breaking point. I can only imagine what it's like to be in college and being confined to an apartment or a room and being told you can't, go to the mall and do those things and go out and have fun with your friends. I know that's really hard. Our kids have been amazing. They have been resilient as hell. They've been amazing. They've been smart. They've made great decisions. Our medical staff is first class, and they have done just 1,000 times above and beyond what I ever thought they were going to have to do for this. And they have kept our kids safe and informed and been smart about it. So we've been able to play games and do these things. And then we got our football season in, and we're getting our basketball season in, and volleyball, softball, track and field, tennis, they're all back. Soccer, we're all going to play spring soccer and spring volleyball. So it's really a testament to them. It's been hard. I don't want to sit in front of a computer all day. I don't want to Zoom all day. I don't want to meet my kids for the first time on Zoom. I want to be there with them. I want to give them hugs when they win. I want to do those things, and we can't. So it's been really hard on all of them. But they're tough. They're pushing through. I really appreciate what our medical staff has done. We've just kind of sat by and said, hey, if you need any questions, let us know, because when there's no recruiting, that's a big chunk of my life is recruiting and tickets. Tickets are like a nonstop headache every home game. Comp tickets, being at the ticket office, being at the ticket window. When we were selling out basketball games, it was just a circus. But when you take those things away, I said to my staff, okay, if we're not going to do those things, what else can we do to be helpful? Like, where else can we help? Let's do a parent Zoom. Let's get all of our new students' parents on, and let's tell them what we're going to do and how we're going to keep their kids safe. And that's something we've never done before. So we kind of tried to fill in those gaps of what can we do to help, our students and our staff right now.
Yeah. And I think the really awesome part about like just Buffalo and everyone kind of coming off of winning seasons is like the recruiting, does it on the field. So I think you don't have that. That was the one thing that I got to see very in person, was just like the wow factor and the bling. It's like, what's great about Buffalo, New York? And it's just like, you have to like be there to understand, and you have to like feel the love, and have to just like they always say, like, when it snows, like, you never really know because everyone gets out and shovels together. Yep. And that was like 100% the feeling like I had being there. And just like it's a feeling. And I remember like having junior days where you'd have just hundreds and hundreds of these like junior boys that thought that they were just amazing. And, because that's what college is all the best athletes get thrown into a team and stuff like that. And I think just the way that like Buffalo UB sells that feeling and sells the community it's just like incredible. And I've been super like active keeping up with a lot of the teams and stuff, and I'm grateful that they're winning and doing all that, because I'm like, people are going to go there, like go to Buffalo. And I remember when I went, my friends were like, oh, like we'll come visit you, and then like New York City's super close, right? And I'm like, nope. Wrong side of the state. Right. But then just like how my experience, especially coming from like Chicago, and it's a big city and stuff like that, I was like, a piece of my heart will forever be in that city. And for sure. And then too, to kind of something that I love is coaches really understanding compliance and having a great relationship. But what do you really think that what do you wish more coaches really knew about compliance, and how do you really bridge that gap of like, I know it's a lot to handle, but like I'm doing, this is to set you guys up for success.
Right. Well, we have a great relationship with our coaches. Our coaches are super knowledgeable. My head coaches are first class. We don't have any issues. I don't worry about my coaches when they're out recruiting. I don't worry about my coaches when they're coaching and running practices and things. I don't sit back and go, geez, I hope nobody's breaking rules today. Just not the kind of atmosphere we promote. The more communicative and the more education you can provide to your coaches, the more they're going to respect and understand decisions and why we're doing things. The more legwork you do with aggression, Coach Jack comes to me and wants to do something different, something outside the box. We're gonna do some research. Now we can't always do it. We can't always do what they want to do, but we can maybe present some alternatives. Can't do this, but we can do this, this, and this. It's really rare where we just have to say absolutely not, can't do it. There's no way around it. There's nothing else we can do. That doesn't happen very often. The NCAA has kind of moved towards some deregulation of the rules, opened up some of those things we can do with awards and benefits and some of that kind of stuff that's been nice. But I think, my coaches have a really, really good understanding of the rules. We have a bunch of young assistant coaches that are always reaching out. They're in our office, they're at our meetings. They want to get better. They know that the more that they can learn, the more marketable they're going to be. And I've had that conversation with many of them. Like, listen, if you can do all these things right and do all the paperwork and do all this stuff and button it all up, you're just going to be that much more valuable to your next employer. The compliance, us compliance folks around the country, we have a wonderful, wonderful network of colleagues, and we talk amongst ourselves. And I say, like, you guys would be great to have that coach. That coach trained under us, listened to us, came to the meetings, understood the rules. You're never going to have a problem. Like, we have that little camaraderie that we can talk about people as they move on. And a lot of our assistant coaches do move on to really bigger and better places, and that's ultimately what we want. But I think with coaches, I don't drown them in the legislation. That's not for them. I kind of keep it short in bullets. Here are the bullet points. Here's what you need to know. Here's what you don't need to know. I'm not going to worry about that. Let us deal with the legislation. You don't have to look in the book for stuff. Call us and we'll get it figured out for you. And being available outside of business hours. My phone will ring at 10:30. My phone will ring at 5:30 a.m. It doesn't matter. Our track coach doesn't sleep. She's up at 5:30 emailing me and I'm emailing her back. And, some people are night owls. So, we're dealing with it 24/7, and coaches respect you when you can be available. Work-life balance. There's no work-life balance. My work is my life. So as long as those things are going well, I am balanced.
I love that. Yeah. To kind of just something out of like curiosity, and kind of, this is definitely a selfish question, because I just am finishing my master's program and wrote my kind of like thesis and comps on like the name, image, and likeness and kind of where that is going. And I like work for a company that is private and essentially would be awesome to promote student athletes and get them, the recognition that they deserve. What kind of like from the ruling is coming out super soon. I think the kind of like
the vote just got delayed though. It was supposed to be voted on in January at the convention. It was delayed just due to some stuff that's going on at the state levels. Some legislation that might be passed. So the NCAA did delay the vote on name, image, and likeness. I never thought we'd get here. The NCAA was founded on the premise of amateurism, which is not allowing a student athlete to make money off their name, image, and likeness. But I understand why we're here. And I can't fill my head with, we can't do this, we shouldn't do this, this is wrong. I don't have room in my brain for that right now. I just have to say, okay, this is what the next step is with college athletics. Let's figure out how we can make this work. And let's make sure we have a really, really deep understanding of how it's going to work so that we can educate our student athletes, our staff, our coaches, our constituents, our fans, our boosters. All of those people are going to have a hand in this. Do I love it? I don't. I don't love this idea. I feel like it's shaking us at our core. It's that fundamental principle that I've based the last 21 years of my career on is now changing. But everything has to change eventually. We have to adapt to this generation of students. And I understand that. So right now we're all kind of in this holding pattern while we wait for the legislation to be put in place. The fundamental things about name, image, and likeness are there's not going to be any institutional involvement. So I can't help, my student athletes promote themselves. They can earn money off their name, image, and likeness. But there's going to be some guardrails about, not promoting products that are contradictory to maybe the university's values, maybe some of the, adult nightclubs and alcohol and, recreational drugs that are legal in some states. Some of those kinds of things might be off limits. But we're getting there. And, I wonder what it's going to look like in 2 or 3 years when you have student athletes making more money than coaches, student athletes doing all those things. Everybody has a right to make money. That's a fundamental principle in our country. So I understand their need for this. It does scare me a little bit, and it scares a lot of my colleagues, I can tell you that. But we will be ready. We will make sure that our student athletes have a good foundation in place, that they understand it, they know how to do it, they know what the parameters are, and we're just going to go from there. You just got to keep adapting.
Yeah, I love that. Was great insight, great answer. And yeah, you just got to keep going. Because even as like me just like thinking about it, I'm like, wow, like as a student athlete, like I just feel like it would be such like a scary thing, because you always tried to avoid, like you knew that was like, you couldn't do that. And there was, yeah, wow, that's crazy. Okay. Sorry. I had to ask. But yeah, so just kind of some last few questions, like the really part that I like the most about the end of this show is just kind of things to like challenge you to think about like your future and what impacts you, and kind of some reflection questions. But what really kind of continues to push and inspire you going through, compliance, going through the sports industry, going through changes that you might not agree with or fully understand how they're going to come to life. But how do you really just kind of push through those unforeseen circumstances and keep going?
It's just seeing our success stories. It's really all about the student athletes. There's been so many of them come through during my time, and watching kids that come from nothing, that come to UB with a backpack and, $20 in their pocket and have nothing, and watching them grow and graduate, move on, get jobs, get married, have kids, do all of those things. That really just is the reason that I want to keep going. I've got a few kids on campus right now that, I have those discussions with them, like, where would you be if you weren't here? You probably wouldn't be anywhere. You have friends that are dead. You have friends that are in jail. You have friends that don't have jobs, that are on the streets. Like, this is the best place for you. We have student athletes that have children, that have families, that I'm like, this is for your daughter. This is for your son. They deserve this. You got to stay here and get your degree, and pushing kids to do that. Our academic staff is so good at that. 2 summers ago, I had a former basketball player who was, 35 years old, come back to campus, and maybe 30, but came back to campus to finish his degree, because he left without finishing. And I had been pushing him for 10 years to come back. He finally came back. He moved into an apartment on campus. He brought nothing with him, in the computer lab every day, finished his classes, got his degree. There's nothing better than that, and trying to get them to not leave without finishing that degree while they're here, so that they can be successful. That's really what motivates me. Watching our coaches, win and be successful. Seeing bosses move on to other institutions. We got Danny White, who just took the job at Tennessee, Alan Green at Auburn, Ward Manuel at Michigan. Like, they all took a little bit of Buffalo with them. They all have that soft spot in their heart for this city, like everybody else does. That motivates me every day. I wake up and I just know that there's 360 kids that, have this amazing opportunity to get degrees from the University of Buffalo. We're a major research institution. That degree means something. And knowing that I can play a little part in that really, motivates me when I'm exhausted, when we've had 4 home games in a week and got home at midnight and we have an 8 a.m. staff meeting. But, there's no comp time. It's not like, oh, I'll come in at noon because we were here late. It doesn't work like that in athletics.
Nope, not at all. But that's also about it for sure, is like, if you don't love it, it'll show you real quick. But my next question is, what is your hope for women aspiring to work in sports? And what kind of advice do you give them to really step out and be confident and know that they have a seat at the table?
Right. I think as a young female coming through and wanting to work in college athletics, one, I think you have to kind of narrow your focus pretty early on. I get a lot of, hey, I want to intern anywhere would be great. I think I'm not sure that's a great approach to things. I think, if you're getting your master's degree and you're starting to get a little feel for all the different departments, there's development and fundraising and academics and sports medicine and all the different groups. There's student services, there's ticket office, there's so many different things. I think maybe trying to push yourself towards one of those earlier on to see if that's something that you can do, and working really, really hard, staying off your phone, being present at meetings, taking notes, being there, understanding things, following up with people, making those connections. I'm a big person with connections. I like to talk to other people at other schools. I have no problem emailing my buddy at Penn State and calling my buddy at this school and reaching out to Syracuse and doing all those things. Like you can't be afraid to ask questions and then learn from that question and move on, and make that part of your foundation and your fundamental, your core knowledge of the area. You have to be really, really knowledgeable in your area. But you have to listen. You have to watch what the people before you did and how they're working. And, you have to be smart. I think, we get so consumed with social media and Twitter and, Instagram and all this kind of stuff. And I'm on TikTok all day, and, put your phone down, work really hard, be committed, be present at what you're doing. And I think you can get a foot in the door. Everybody's trying to get in. Everybody wants to work in athletics. It's fun. But it's a hell of a lot of work. And if you can't dedicate your life to it, you're probably not going to be successful. There's weeks we will be there 60 to 70 hours. And I look back and I go, and the trainers are there more, and the coaches were there more. I'm complaining at home about how much I'm at work, and they're still at work. So it's a lot. It's a lifestyle.
Yes, everyone that is listening or is going to listen in the future needs to take notes on that. And yep, because that is so true. Yep, I can back that 100%. But Kelly, one last question. I always love asking this, but what impact do you really want and wish and kind of really hope to leave on UB, on the sports industry, on compliance, just, wherever things end up, what impact do you hope to leave?
I just hope that, the day I retire and leave that office for the last time, that the student athletes, the coaches, the staff knew that I cared and I love them. I have no problem telling my kids I love them. I get off my volleyball meetings and I go, love you guys, be safe, because I do. And I just want to, when my time has come to retire or to move on, I just want to make sure that people knew that I love UB and that I care about my students and I cared about my staff, my coaches. And then I was, a loyal Bull.
I love it. I miss Buffalo. I'm super excited to watch the Bills play this weekend.
Is Sunday yet?
I can't imagine the buzz in the city.
It's crazy.
The love, especially. It's been incredible. But I just want to thank you so much for taking out time to do this and to give people so much great advice. Like I said, I hope people take notes. And thank you to everyone that's listening, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Horns up.